back on the feet, and it's so good to be back on the feet. You know, my son, because I didn't see my children for this training camp. I left them at home. So when I left my son, I was out, jumping 360 flips, and and then next time he sees me, I'm in the seat and I can't walk, and that was kind of playing on me a little bit. But then as the weeks are going by in recovery, I'm getting better and stronger, and my son and my children are seeing. My son is the older one; he knows a bit, he can understand a bit more. My other two are still a bit too young, but like he can see the work I've put in, and he can see the rewards, and I know that's going to rub off well on him. He's going to be able to see 100%. His father. He put the work in and you rise back to your feet.
All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. So the Schmo just came out and said that he thinks that Conor McGregor is going to get a title shot in 2022. Now, he kind of walked it, like he said a thing that he sounded like he was saying one thing, but he was actually saying another thing. Okay, so this has been like the big talk of the town, right? Conor McGregor says he's getting an immediate title shot when he comes back, okay? Now, Conor just like tweeted that, right? Like this is a thing Conor tweeted. And he set the entire MMA community on fire. I'm telling you guys, like people who literally are like, oh, God, Conor, he's over, man. He's over, dude. He's over. Like, he's lost all these fights. He's not even a big deal anymore. Oh, really? He tweets a thing like that, and then every single analyst comments on it, gets a million types of engagement on Twitter, YouTube, whatever. Like, Conor is the opposite of over, dude. He's still at peak interest. He really is. He's just at a different phase. When he was on the way up, it was like, wow, this guy's taking over the world. Now he's like the rich billionaire asshole that everybody's like, man, I want to see this guy lose. And I guarantee he's very aware of what he's doing. Very aware. But so, he says, I'm going to get an immediate title shot. Everyone needs to comment on it. And the Schmo, he took kind of I thought it was actually funny how he framed it. So he said basically, because hype trumps everything, I do believe he's going to get a title shot in 2022. And that was in response to Conor saying, I'm going to get an immediate title shot. So he kind of sounded like he was saying he was going to get an immediate title shot, but what he actually said was he thinks he'll get a title shot in 2022. So he left it open to say no, I wasn't saying he was going to get an immediate title shot. So he's trying to have it both ways. Very, a good way to do that. That way you can go back and be like, well, I wasn't wrong. If, one thing or the other, right? But so I'm going to comment on this because I feel pretty confident about this particular topic because this falls in line with the main thing that I talk about all the time. Normally, the biggest fights trump everything else, but there is a rule that supersedes that one, okay? So you basically have single individual fighters that you could sell any fight for, right? You put them in there with anyone, it's going to do a ton of pay-per-views. Conor being one of them, right? But the reality is this, okay? The way that the UFC remains different than boxing, okay? You have boxing, and each individual event is like its own single one-off party. It's like we're doing a New Year's Eve party. The JW Hyatt, downtown Austin. Let's hype it, marketing, whatever. And then you either win or you lose on that event, right? Like it's a one-off event. And then you either kill it or you don't, right? That's boxing. Okay, what makes the UFC and not like boxing is the public believing that there is integrity behind how you end up getting to a title shot. Okay, if you actually really challenge that, right? If you really make it to where people don't believe that the way you get a title shot is through your athletic merit and your wins and losses, that really cracks the foundation of what the UFC's business is built on. You can never challenge that. You can never really challenge that, okay? And that supersedes even Conor, who normally breaks every other rule to where, you could normally slide him into this fight or that fight that he doesn't really deserve, but never at the expense of the structural integrity that the public believes is the pursuit of the title. You can't ever challenge that. It cannot be done because that challenges the whole entire thing, and the whole thing is more valuable than Conor. So, there are a couple examples that I can give that people would use to illustrate their point if they think Conor really is going to get an immediate title shot. So, perfect example, Yoel Romero. They'll go, dude, Yoel Romero's coming off 2 losses, and he got to fight Israel Adesanya, right? Perfect example, right? Brock Lesnar was going to get to fight DC, okay, coming off of a long layoff and a fight that he won when he got popped for juice, and then a layoff before that, and he got beat up then, right? So there's no justification in terms of the structural hierarchy for Brock Lesnar to get that fight other than hype, right? That's your best example. Like the Brock Lesnar one, that's your best example, okay? And I will just show you why that is not a relevant example at all, okay? But so those are two pretty strong examples, right? So let's talk about the Yoel Romero one first. Okay, so what were the actual circumstances of the Yoel Romero title shot, okay? So who else would have been in line for that title shot? That's the first thing, okay? So if you put Conor in, okay, when he's coming off these losses, if you put him in, who are you jumping in line? That's the first thing you need to ask yourself, okay? Because if there are deserving people waiting in line for title shots that you jump, that directly sticks a crack right down the middle of the foundation, especially if it's Conor. Especially if it's Conor. Because if it's Conor, you're directly like that is the ultimate way of you saying, yeah, we've got this thing, but it doesn't really matter, you know? Like we've got this whole thing of how we've got this pyramid and this kind of, bracket system-ish, whatever, but that doesn't actually really matter. It's all an illusion, right? It's all just really an illusion. So because Conor is a superstar, so we'll just give him a title shot, right? Okay, the illusion of the structural integrity of the thing, that is the most critical thing. And you stick Conor in there, coming off of the fights that he's coming off of, that is a 100%, like just sticks a crack right down the middle of it because you've got Makhachev, you've got Gaethje, you've got, whatever. So like, let's say it's Dustin loses to Oliveira and then he wins another, whatever. But you've got guys that are directly in line for a title shot, right? Directly in line, and deservedly so, especially Islam Makhachev, okay? And so if you jump those guys, that's very different than just the fact that someone was coming off a couple losses also and he got a title shot. Because in Conor's case, he got finished by Dustin in the fight, but so his leg broke in the first one, or I'm sorry, in the most recent one. But Dustin finished him in the one before that, okay? And then this previous 155-pound fight, he got finished by Khabib, right? So again, I will reiterate this. Conor, I believe, is way more dangerous than people are giving him credit for. I think Conor is still top 4 most dangerous lightweights in the world. He just happened to, fight the greatest lightweight of all time when he was mad. Like, not just fought, Khabib, but actually fought one of the most ice cold, focused, mental, best fighters in the world when he was the most motivated possible to smash your face in, right? And Conor did well against him, to be perfectly honest, given what Khabib really is. But like he lost to Khabib. And then he fought against Dustin Poirier, who we know, if you look at his actual record, is one of the hardest dudes on earth. And he had no pressure on him. He had absolutely no pressure on him whatsoever. You go into that, like again, I don't count the second fight. Dustin probably would have won, I guess, based on how the first round went. But that's not a legit victory. Like he broke his leg. But the first one, Conor was overconfident. Dustin went in with no pressure, and Dustin is the hardest lightweight there is. I believe he's the best lightweight in the world now with Khabib out. And so those are Conor's losses, right? But he got finished, right? He got finished. And you have no significant wins that you could point to recent at 155. You're going back to Eddie Alvarez, dude. You're going back to Eddie Alvarez. It's before the Mayweather fight. That's not a relevant win that you could justify giving him a title shot with. And then you go to Yoel Romero, and yeah, he had lost some fights, but what were the fights he lost, and how did he lose them? Okay, so you got Paulo Costa, insanely close decision. They could have gone either way. That's one of those fights, should have been a draw. That fight should have been a draw. You got the Whitaker fight, the second one. Yoel Romero, I believe, won that second fight. And then you got the first Whitaker fight that was so razor close, there's no way that you could even pick a winner. He basically was coming off 3 draws, right? Like he's coming off 3 draws with the other best guys in the division. So yeah, he's coming off losses, but everyone watched those fights. Everyone is objectively watching those fights. Like we know, like that he easily could have won all 3 of those. It's just the matter of somebody at the, they're like, I think this guy won. And that's the difference, okay? Versus getting knocked out, getting strangled. Like those are not the same thing, okay? So that is delegitimized. The Yoel Romero does not exist. And also, who is he jumping? Nobody, right? He's not really jumping anybody that was just like right there in line, okay? Then you go to the Brock Lesnar example, right? Okay, so Brock Lesnar is the biggest draw in the sport, with Conor, right? And who's he jumping in line in the heavyweight division? No one, okay? There was no one there then. There was no one there, right? There was no one there. DC was coming up from light heavyweight, okay? Now what they're, like, look, I'll just be straight with you. What I believe the UFC was doing was this. So DC is a bigger star, was obviously a much bigger star than Stipe. Stipe, heavyweight GOAT, had knocked out everyone. And the UFC is going, fuck, man, why can't we sell Stipe, dude? Why can't we sell this guy? Like this, I know he's not like a great interview, but he's the most exciting heavyweight we've had. I mean, he's a fucking boxer that's dirt napping everybody. Why can't we sell this guy? You know? Like, why can't we sell? It doesn't make any sense. And so they pulled DC up from light heavyweight. And I'm not sure. I also think there was also that thing where DC lost to John Jones. John Jones said he didn't want to go to heavyweight because he kind of alluded that he was afraid to fight Stipe. You know, that's kind of what he said. And I think for DC, obviously this was a way for him to beat John Jones, right? It was like, well, if he's scared, you know, John Jones is suspended. So if he's scared to go up to heavyweight, how about I'll go up to heavyweight? I'll do the thing that he was afraid to do, right? And I think the UFC gave him that opportunity because, like we've talked about, Stipe was not super marketable. I don't think they gave DC much of a shot in that fight because no one really did because of how dominant Stipe had been. But the way they look at it, they're like, okay, well, so if Stipe does knock out DC, it makes him more marketable. He's the heavyweight GOAT, and then we bring in Brock Lesnar, and then that fight will be a super fight, hopefully, and then we'll finally be able to fucking sell Stipe as a superstar. You know, like, it's all about, like, you know, thinking ahead to how many pay-per-views are we going to sell. All of it. It's all, of course, strategy, okay? And then if DC wins, you're like, I mean, it seems unlikely. If you're the UFC, it seems unlikely, but if he does, I mean, that's great. You know, that's like, then we get to set up a DC versus Brock Lesnar fight. That'll really sell, right? It's a win-win. So they send him up, okay, thinking that Stipe will knock him out. But the point I'm making is when they brought DC up, there was no one there. Francis wasn't there at that point. Francis was like recently coming off of those, you know, like I believe at that, I mean, I could look this up, but Francis had lost to Stipe, then had that really weird fight with Derek Lewis. And I believe, you know, maybe, I can't remember, I hadn't looked this up before, but the first fight after that was against Cain Velasquez where he knocked him out really quick, but it almost seemed kind of weird. Remember, like he absolutely knocked him out. You know, when you watch it in slow motion, you know, he hit him with that really, really tight shot, but then it looked like Cain's leg just folded. So like a lot of people just thought like Cain's knee gave out, and that's how Francis won, when in reality, Francis hit him with a shot to the chin and he went out. But like, that's basically where Francis was. He was not online. He's not online. There's no one there. So Brock was not jumping the line, even though that was a more similar and relevant use case. If there was no one there at lightweight, then yeah, you could give Conor that fight. But that's not the case. Lightweight is in the same position that bantamweight was because Khabib left. Anytime you have a dominant champion that just walks away, you're going to have tons of deserving contenders instantly. I mean, look at 135. Like, you're just now, I would say, as of this moment right now, finally, you're like, okay, Peter Yan is definitely the guy. Like, he's definitely the guy. But when did Triple C walk away? It took a long time for that to shake itself out, right? Think about if Kamaru Usman just walked. That's the same thing. If Kamaru Usman just walked off welterweight, how long would it take until you were like, wow, we have a super legit champion? Because here's the other thing. I don't know if I want to step on this actually. Never mind. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do a separate video about this. But yeah, I mean, there's no way you can justify it. Like, you can't justify giving Conor that fight. You just can't. And so I think what they'll do is I think Conor's going welterweight anyway. I mean, all of this is obviously assuming that he was going to go to lightweight, but like, I think he's going to welterweight because I think Conor, I mean, I know that that Conor understands, like I don't have even 1 millimeter of doubt that I have perfect understanding of how this all works, right? Like how it actually works, the decisions that are being made and why. I have no doubt. I've never been in that room. I'm positive I'm right. And I'm also equally positive that there are other people who understand that too. And Conor is for sure one of them. And so Conor, he knows what I know, right? I mean, so he's like, I'll do 170 or, you know, I would go to, or if they'd give me a title shot, I'll go to 55. Or they give me a direct line to the title shot. Like if maybe they gave me Islam Makhachev, and then if I win that fight, I get a title shot. Something like that, which please God, let that happen. Please God, give me Conor versus Islam. Please. But if they don't do that, then what does he do, right? Like, what's his plan? Like, Conor always has a plan, and I'll tell you very likely what it is. Like we talked about, might be the Nate Diaz fight, but I meant to say, So in that video that I did, if you're watching this long, it probably means you watch all my videos all the way. But like, so what I said in the Nate Diaz fight, or the video that I talked about, Conor going to welterweight, then having to do the Nate Diaz fight because he only has one fight left on his contract. So I had literally just thought of that 1 second before I did that video. And as soon as I was done, maybe like a couple hours later, I thought, I'm like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Okay, because what the UFC is going to do is they're going to dangle that fight in front of Nate Diaz and they're going to make him re-sign to a multi-fight deal. If he wants to fight, if he wants that $10 million, like you don't give anyone anything for free. Why would you, like, you know, I'm contradicting my original point. Why would you give Nate Diaz a $10 million payday if he's not willing to commit to your company going forward? So I take back what I said. If he wouldn't sign a multi-fight deal to get that Conor fight, then fuck it, don't give it to him. I take that back. I retract what I said in that earlier video. But anyway, so like, but if it's not Nate Diaz and Conor's at 170, Dustin wins or loses. Dustin comes up to 170 to fight Conor in the super fight, and if Conor beats Dustin, okay, if Conor beats Dustin, then he's in line for a 155-pound title shot, okay? Like that's, I know that wouldn't normally make sense. Oh, he wins at welterweight. Why would he be in line for 150? That's his most direct line to a title shot, is getting Dustin to come up to 170. Conor beats him at 170, and then he gets to go down and fight for the title at 55 because Dustin was either relinquished the belt at 55 or you know, just lost like a close decision to Charles Oliveira, came up. And clearly, you know, you're like, damn, if he can beat Dustin, then he is ready for a title shot at 55. That's his most direct line to the title. So anyway, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Peace.